Who among us hasn't done something we later regret? Kicked a cat, stolen stationery from the office, told a secret to a friend entrusted to us. Nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. We all have failings. We all are sometimes guilty of selfish wrongdoing. And when we do, shame and guilt have a way of catching up with us. But why is it so very hard to shake them off? Today we'll explore 10 reasons why guilt and shame cling to us, and why perhaps they're not as useless as we sometimes think. The first thing is a phony conscience. You may know someone I know, Catherine. As a child, she grew up with strict parents. Every small failing was noticed, and as an adult, Catherine found herself quick to feel guilty. Not because she had done something truly wrong, but because she believed others disapproved. Of course, this is false guilt. Guilt about not being what other people think we should be. True guilt, by contrast, comes from violating our own principles. Yet, Catherine would say, if I feel guilty, I must be guilty, as though feelings always tell the truth. This story reminds us we must learn to heed only healthy guilt. This is the kind that points us back to our true selves. Now, a second thing to mention is fear of losing reputation. Other people's rules can be important sometimes. Our reputation does matter to some extent. It's hard to work, to trade, or even to live in community without the trust of others. So shame becomes a powerful motivator, restraining impulses when conscience falters. We do conceal our flaws, fearing disgrace. But this fear binds us, making shame less about morality and more about respect and survival. A third reason why we can't seem to shake off guilty feelings is to do with escaping into addiction. Feeling burdened by guilt. Some of us escape into, say, something like alcohol or gambling or some other form of risk-taking, only to create more harm and more guilt. I thought a drink would help me forget, but it only made everything worse. So escapism, instead of relieving guilt, deepens it. A fourth reason why we can't shake off guilt is to do with making up excuses. We tell ourselves, I didn't mean it was just an accident. She made herself too attractive. If you can't be bothered to lock it up, of course I'll take it. Excuses may soothe us for a moment, comfort us, but conscience has a way of circling back. A fifth reason why we don't shake off our guilt feelings is to do with making glib apologies. Sometimes then we acknowledge fault, but only half-heartedly. We say sorry and then we move on, but without genuine remorse, without a desire to change, our apologies just ring hollow. There are some religious people, sadly, who believe that just one needs to do is ask for God's forgiveness, and then one is forgiven automatically. No, I'm afraid it doesn't work like that. To feel the forgiveness that removes guilt feelings requires much more. Not just glib words, but a genuine remorse. Now, I'm going on to a sixth reason now. This is confessing to the wrong person. Of course, confession can bring relief, but only if it falls on sympathetic ears. So that's why the alcoholic confides in another excessive drinker. And that's why the client of a counselling service trusts the counsellor who offers warmth, does not offer judgment. You see, tell your deepest failing to someone cold or critical or unsympathetic, and your guilt only grows heavier. And related to that is reason number 7. Believing in a judgmental God. Now, for the religious person, the problem is this, still sharper still. If their picture of God is harsh and condemning, then prayer can feel like another courtroom. Instead of finding mercy, they may only confirm their worst fears. Concern that they are an evil sinner and so worthless. But a compassionate God, a loving God, offers release, not chains. Number 8. Lack of genuine remorse. Now, some people believe forgiveness is as simple as asking for it, but even remorse without resolve is fragile. Real release from guilt comes with 2 other things as well as remorse. A desire not to repeat the wrong and a willingness to make amends. So, without these, I'm afraid guilt will linger in the shadows. The presence and absence of these factors can be seen in the difference between those, I think, with a deep religiousness and those with only a shallow sort of faith. Have you heard about the study of American undergraduates? Those with an inner spiritual religiousness showed sexual restraint. They sought out a long-term partner for themselves. But those with a more external sort of church-going used short-term sexual strategies and believed that without love, sex is still acceptable. Now, a 9th reason for our difficulty shaking off guilt feelings is when thus we forget to reform. Because guilt is not meant to last forever. Someone said once, guilt is sometimes a friendly internal voice reminding you that you're messing up, like pain from a flame. It warns us, stop, change direction. But once we've learned, we must let guilt go. Similarly, the Swedish theologian Emanuel Swedenborg saw guilt as a temporary catalyst, one for humility, for example, also for self-examination and also personal growth. A teacher pointing us towards wisdom, towards humility and honour, rooted not in social reputation, but in deep integrity. Now, I'm going to mention a final reason why we can't sometimes shake off guilt feelings. It's when we mistake lower for higher conscience. So, conscience itself, of course, is a complex thing. Reverence towards what our hearts and minds rightly perceive to be what is good and true does involve a combination of respect, humility, as well as fear of offending. Swedenborg wrote that in the Bible, Adam and Eve were naked and not ashamed because they lived in innocence. Of course, this was a parable. Shame arrived only when innocence was lost. In this sense, healthy shame is not about worldly honour, but about recognizing when we have turned away from what is right and long to return. So to sum up, why can't we simply cast shame and guilt away? Because they are not merely chains, they are teachers. Some false teachers, some true ones. Some destructive, others guiding us back to the better path. You know, the art of living lies not in silencing guilt, but in listening to guilt and acting on the right kind of guilt. The kind that makes us more human. If you found what I've been saying helpful, you may want to click the link to the video, How Do I Make the Sadness Go Away?, which is part of the same playlist I've done on emotional healing. Thanks for watching.